Everyone who's ever been in a band has had a common desire to play live and get a crowd going. There's nothing more exciting than seeing people get into your music and have a great time. But whether you're in a local cover band that's in it to have fun, party, and make a little extra cash, or you're an all-original music band really trying to make it, there's one thing that'll separate you from all the rest, and that's having a really great sound. There's something to be said for cranking up your amp and blowing off steam, but what makes you more professional, more appealing as performers, and frankly much more worthy of being paid is sounding like a band instead of everyone just being loud. There are tons of manufacturers out there making readily available and affordable equipment for musicians. In fact, there's so much, you may not know where to start when it comes to putting it all together. We're going to take a look at all types of gear and how it's used properly. Everything we're going to show you is easily attainable and understandable with a little help. We're not here to make recommendations on which manufacturer is better than another or how much you should spend. Suffice it to say that everything we show you is gear we've used and it hasn't let us down. We can't show you everything that's out there. There's too much, and the technology changes at lightning speed. After watching this video, you'll be prepared to make a trip to the local music store to talk to their experts about your specific requirements. Or for that matter, because the technology changes so quickly, you can dig up tons of used gear through music stores, classified ads, or the internet. Now it's time for a little disclaimer here. All of this gear obviously uses electricity, sometimes enough to kill you if you mess around inside of it. If you're not extremely comfortable working with high voltage electricity, I suggest you leave those tasks to professionals. One more thing. Even if you're not opening up the equipment and poking around in the wiring, you can still be seriously injured by plugging your equipment into improperly wired outlets. In fact, you can be killed. This is especially a concern if your band plays out at bars or other venues that have stages that were built as afterthoughts, or if the venue is outdoors. My advice is to go to the place where you're going to play ahead of time if possible, and check the outlets using a simple tester that's available at most hardware stores. One such tester looks like this. If the tester indicates a problem with an outlet, advise the owner of the problem and ask them to have it fixed prior to you plugging any gear in. Since most of the outlets are probably on the same circuit, more than one outlet may be bad, so test all of them that you're going to use. This is one of those practices that you should never deviate from or forget to do. It could save your life, or at a minimum, save your equipment. Since we're going to talk about lots of gear, something to think about is how are we going to have enough power outlets to plug all this stuff in? Since most of the equipment is manufactured to allow for rack mounting, you should plan on doing that. Racks make it easy for you to transport your equipment and protects it from the abuse it will encounter when you play out live. Racks come in all sizes and are made to accommodate a specific number of rack spaces. Each component of the equipment we'll discuss, depending upon the manufacturer, will probably take up from 1 to 4 rack spaces. So when you're purchasing rack cases, you'll need to take stock of your equipment and make sure you have enough rack spaces to accommodate all of it. Some equipment, like EQs, which we'll discuss later, may require you to leave an empty rack space above the unit to prevent it from overheating. Regardless of how many rack spaces you need, you should allow an extra rack space for a power conditioner. This particular power conditioner is made by Furman. They're a well-known company and have been making these things for years. In addition to protecting your gear from transient power spikes, they also provide a graceful method of managing the power cords from all of the rack-mounted equipment. This particular unit provides 8 outlets and will handle a maximum load of 15 amps, and means you'll only need to find one power outlet for everything in the rack, assuming it doesn't exceed the 15 amp limit. Some units like this one also have lights with a dimmer, so if you mount it at the top of the rack, you'll be able to see all the controls of your gear in the dark. Since racks can come as big as you want them, unless you have King Kong working as a roadie for your band, I suggest keeping the number of rack spaces to about 8 or less. If you need more rack spaces, buy a second rack or get health insurance to cover your upcoming back surgery. The really good news is that anybody can do today what was only possible for people with really big budgets just a few short years ago, and at a fraction of the cost. Let's take a look at what we're going to cover. The components we're going to talk about are microphones, some of the most popular types and their uses. Preamps, what are they and why do you need them? Mixers, we'll cover these in depth. They come in all sizes and complexities with all kinds of features. Power amplifiers to drive everything, front of house speakers, floor monitors, plugs and cabling, and finally some stage miking issues you should be aware of. So if you're ready, hang on. Let's get started.